it is 5:30, a little after that, so let's go ahead and begin our finance committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting order. At this time, we can hear from Deb Lauer, please.
Deb's not here tonight, it's her daughter's senior night for basketball.
Oh, good
She
for
asked to be excused.
Sure, okay.
In your packet, she put the monthly financial report.
Okay.
There wasn't anything of note that she wanted to bring forward on that.
And Phyllis, we have signature on bank cards. That's something we need to.
The fund, yeah, the signatures on the bank cards is, I have a letter here. There's a few that don't want to allow changes unless they have something from the board.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna send this letter around. It basically just says, on all signature cards, they will be listed to sign Deb, Chris Welch as deputy treasurer, myself, or Brian. So, and just for you guys to sign, hopefully that'll pacify them.
So we'll have 4 signers, and then our check at any one time required 2
Two signatures.
signatures of those 4.
Correct.
That's the way it was when you were chairman, wasn't it,
Yeah.
Jeff? Same
Yep.
way. Brian, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. Vicki?
Yep.
Are you here? Vicki?
Ted, do we talk about this funding for line of credit payments? Joe, isn't that what we were discussing last time?
Line of credit payment?
Yeah, it has a funding for line of credit payments, I'm guessing that's,
You brought it up under other business at the general meeting
Right,
last
you
month.
put on
The proposal, I didn't make
Yeah.
a proposal.
yeah, I made a proposal on that.
I asked for,
Is that for the resolution of limiting borrowing against line of credit?
No, it was for, taking
Payback.
payments against our
Oh.
line of credit.
oh,
Taking a percentage of,
oh, yeah,
I proposed taking percentage of the
right, you
prisoner.
made the proposal and I made a
Yeah,
counter proposal that,
you asked if I
If you would-
amended it, and I have,
But that was done by email, so you're going to,
what,
you need some discussion and changing.
no, that
That was
wasn't.
not done in the meeting. You don't believe,
I think that's what that had to do with, wasn't it?
yeah.
Well, Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, I think that you had suggested that we take a percent of the jail income and
Mhm.
apply it towards the line,
Right.
correct? Was that
Correct, yeah.
my understanding?
Yeah.
And then, Joe, I had heard
Right,
that you had said that you thought that it should be more like a percent of the checking, of the total
Balance.
checking balance to be applied.
the
towards-
general fund balance, yes. A percentage after the funds are made at the end, this will vary from month to month.
So was there a decision made on that, or
No, we
is
have
it
not.
still up in the air?
I just asked for it to be on the agenda so we discuss it.
Okay.
All right, well, let's have that discussion then.
My idea about the jail, the prisoner, that if we deducted off that every month, it's kinda like a Christmas account where if it gets taken out, we don't, it gets, it's not missed, I guess.
What kind of a percentage are we talking?
We'd have to figure that out, whether we wanted to use 5% or 10% or 2% or whatever you wanted to. Now, Joe was talking about using the account, the balance in our checking account, which that can change different than
We may or may not have it.
yeah, we may or may not have it. Where if we just stuck to just using the percentage of that prisoner income, we would know that's where a percentage of that was going to pay our line of credit down until it was,
But then if we don't have that money, we
might have to trigger in going into the line of credit to make a payroll or something.
exactly.
Well, I think it's a very worthy discussion because we're actually looking at the line 2 ways. We're looking at the line, how can we begin to pay it back, which I think is a very worthy discussion. And then we're also looking tonight at a resolution that Bevan Phillips and I worked on as far as limiting, future borrowing on the line except in an emergent type situation.
We'd have to clarify what emergency was, but we won't talk about that one there.
Well,
Yeah.
the point is, Jeff, we're
Yeah,
I think we're having a worthy discussion on, A, how do we begin to pay down the current $505,000 that we have borrowed? Okay? And then how do we limit future borrowing on that line as well?
Right.
So, I'm open to any sensible plan that can begin paying that down. And if you wanna tie it to, to prisoner income, that's certainly one way, to do it. To tie it to, like, for instance, if you look at the
To the corporate account.
corporate account, right now, there's $70,000 in that.
Actually, it's
There's only $2,298.
yeah.
Oh, after the
10% of
claims,
that.
yeah. So you
10%
got,
of
so you
that
got,
would be a
you got,
$228 payment, but that's a payment.
Yeah, but it's not much,
It's not much,
but it is a payment, you're right.
but that $2,298 balance in there actually includes the jail payment. The jail,
Well, that doesn't include paying anything back to the line of credit, though.
No, but it's
no,
in this figure though.
but
what you're
that
saying.
figure is in that, that includes that, so 10% of that figure would be paying back to the line of credit.
The jail fund's in this $2,200.
Yes,
Which jail fund are you talking about?
what Joe's referring
The
to
payment.
is the jail payments that have been come in for the,
Right, what the income
are
has
in
came
that
in,
balance
right,
of $2,298.
yeah.
So they've already been accounted for, and that's how we've been accounting for them. Right now, Jeff, at last week's meeting, you heard talk about how daily she's running around the courthouse trying to make sure all the checks are in, and checks are in every department, because she's doing her darndest to try to keep us out of the line. And I commend her for that, because, we don't wanna go any deeper into that line. Maybe a more appropriate time would be when we get our first big tax payment to designate a certain amount of those dollars, when we get our property taxes in, to be paid directly on the line, because right now, it may be pretty difficult to pay on the line to 2 weeks later,
Have to.
go right back,
Yeah,
go right back on it.
but like I say, that's how sometimes you farming, you
Sure.
pay bill off and you need a month or so, you
Yeah.
access your line of credit again.
Yeah,
That's what line of credit.
I think until we fundamentally get more income into the county,
You don't want to set up any way, any proposal to
no,
start
I
paying.
don't think it's a bad idea, Jeff, but I don't think we fundamentally have fixed, we need more revenue, and we need to reduce expenses, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that tonight, in ways we can try to reduce expenses by hiring an operations audit, looking at things, but fundamentally, we have to, get more revenue and more expenses on a regular basis, because right now we are in more of our winter months. We're in our winter months, and we're,
Well, like Joe said, though, even 10% of this, we did 200 and some odd dollars, almost 300, so.
well, actually, we have more than 2,000 in that account balance, because you just received a payment of 58,000, which has not been transferred to the corporate account.
Right, it was just
Yeah.
wire transferred into the account this morning.
So that's why I'm saying we should do, okay, I'm gonna make a formal motion that we apply 10% of the balance after payments each month in the corporate account to repaying the line of credit.
I'll second that.
that's obviously if we have a positive balance.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you can't
And-
give them invisible money.
To only go to the line of credit drawn from the general fund, not to go to the highway line of credit, because that should be separate amount.
Yes,
Is there any kind of date on that line of credit that the highway department wanna pay back?
line just renewed in December, didn't it, Matt?
Right.
Both of them? Or the line renewed and then we split off?
Yeah, yeah, when we split them off.
But it was
in
in December, wasn't it, Jeff?
Yeah,
right.
November or December?
Yeah,
Was there any time,
All right, so,
Jim, that said maybe in August we might be getting? it?
well, it's when day labor projects get started up and you get started paying for those when you'll have money coming in.
Okay.
so we have a motion on the table on a monthly basis, if there is an available balance in the general fund checking, to apply 10% of that balance directly on our line of credit principal.
The general fund line.
General
Yeah,
fund.
right.
Line of credit.
Right.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, I think
It was seconded.
We have a
You know,
second.
it was first and
Yeah.
seconded. Is there any
All
other,
we're doing is moving this to the full board for.
Right.
Mhm.
any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, that's good news. Start trying to get this thing whittled down a bit. Now we'll go to Vicki.
There we go. You should have a green sheet in your packet. I wrote January 15th after the last meeting, and everything on it is still correct as it stands. Any questions?
Thanks, Vicki.
No.
Any questions? Law enforcement?
Month of December, we had, this has just been updated, I just got an update on this today. It's not reflected in the minutes because those figures weren't available, but during the month of December, we had 896 days of U.S. Marshal Service at $65 a day. And for January, we had U.S. Marshal Service $852 a day at $65. Cook County for December, we had 404 days at $50 a day, and at the Cook County for the month of January, we had 156 days at $50. We have received payment from the Marshal's Office for December of $58,240 that came in today.
Yes.
By wire transfer. We have not received December for Cook County, and because of an issue with the pharmacy reimbursement, and we haven't received January for U.S. Marshal Service, but we will receive some double receipts in February.
What's the deal with the pharmacy?
I don't know, what is it?
Apparently, and I'm still wrapping my head around this a little bit, but we pay for the Cook County inmates' pharmacy bills. And we get those from McKnight Pharmacy. So we pay those and then we send reimbursements. For some reason, if they are very, very picky about those, and if they determine that possibly something that our jail nurse or our jail doctor prescribed for an inmate, and they dislike that, a lot of times we have to get signed off on it by the jail doctor that that inmate needed that medication. It appears to me that they look at it as a pretty good reason to slow down payment, is basically because they always wind up approving them after we go through an additional step. But that pharmacy bill holds up the entire payment. And it's something that I have to check into. This is the first time that it's happened, so it's something that I'm gonna have to follow up with Cook County Sheriff's Office and find out exactly what's going on there. And I just found out about it yesterday and have not gotten that done yet. So that's something that I'll be following up on. My understanding with the U.S. Marshal Service, that they changed some of their paperwork in December, added a form to the invoice that we send them, only didn't let us know that they were going to add an invoice or form until after we got it. So by the time we got it, we're goofed up a month, but we should be looking at double payments basically from everybody in February, and that'll get us caught back up, so.
Sheriff, from Cook County, we don't get anything more than $50 a day. So if we have pharmacy charges, that's part of that $50 a day.
No, the pharmacy is a restitution thing. If
Okay.
we buy $2,000 worth of pharmaceuticals, we bill them
On top of the.
on top of the
Okay.
thing, so it's a direct reimbursement.
Are there any other reimbursables like that with that contract?
Not with Cook County. Transportation is the same way for the federal marshals. If, we may get a $5,000 transportation check from them, but that's money that we've already spent for mileage and, wages and things for the guys that are doing the transport. So those things are a wash, money out, money back in. And that's, the pharmacy is the only thing that we do that with the, Cook County. That's the only thing that works that way.
Has Cook County been trending down again like it did last winter with cold weather?
Not nearly as bad. We took a dip, I believe, from December, we were at 404 days to 156. Pretty typical over the holidays. They try to get people out in the cold weather like we, talked last year. My understanding, talking to Chief of Corrections Olson today, was that we should start getting more. They've indicated that our census is gonna go back up starting the next trip around, which will be tomorrow, Wednesday, and then the following Wednesday. They were looking at those numbers going back up again.
Okay.
So, doesn't appear that we're going to have nearly that downturn
Last year we had it almost
that
fell
we
off
had
the
last
cliff.
year, so that was.
Sheriff, I got a question. On the insurance that we pay, for prisoners, now, if they have to go to a hospital for some reason, that's covered on our insurance, or do we bill to them?
Cook County, it doesn't, they pay for everything.
Oh, really?
So like US Marshal Service, if we take a prisoner to the hospital, they pay for the correctional officers or the deputies to sit with them and guard them. They pay for the mileage to and from the hospital for us, and the medical bills go straight to the Federal Marshal Service. Cook County, we pay those, at least with the pharmacy. If we have an inmate from Cook County who is going to be hospitalized, we immediately call them and say, come get your prisoner and get him in your medical facility. And that's what they want to do, because they have their own medical facility.
And
They don't use hospital.
They don't want the hospital.
Right, they don't want a big hospital bill either.
Yeah, because the is it 47,000 that we pay for our inmate insurance? That's just for
county inmates.
our inmates then?
Yes, that's for our county inmates.
Okay. Joe, do you have anything else, Sheriff? Anything else to add? Thank you, gentlemen. Fred, where are you in transportation?
I don't think we've got anything new other than what's on the minutes of the last meeting. Jimmy more or less said that right now we've covered everything, so.
Okay. Under zoning, we have in here the hiring of planning officer. It's in your packet.
I'd like to make a motion that we hire this guy on either a temporary basis or a part-time temporary basis or something. If we got this plotting deal over toward Viola, we're gonna be holding him up if we don't get something done right away.
Okay.
It could be, like I say, part-time or
Well,
part-time,
That'd be one of
temporary,
the-
however you wanna word it. He offered to do it for $150, so that, I don't think you'd get anybody else to do it for that.
What is the, Viola, we don't know what we're talking about.
Harris, and he should, Vicky could probably tell you.
John and Nancy Harris they have platted a subdivision, and it hasn't been approved and has to be approved. One of the ones that has to approve it is a platting officer. and they have to know the subdivision ordinance.
Now, our minimum fee for one of these is $150, so that will offset the cost of hiring this individual?
That's what they would get for reading the subdivision plan.
The zoning officer.
The planning officer,
Yeah, plating, they get $150 for that.
per subdivision
That's what
that
we
they
would
read.
charge per subdivision for
Yes.
the reading, and we would pay this individual $150. But then there's this $50 per lot in addition to the $150?
That's something that we were wanting to revise because it's so outdated. This is like 1970, the subdivision ordinance. And they wanted, page 12, Article 9 of the subdivision ordinance, they wanted to raise that, I think it was $50 a lot, but not to go over,
Or not to be less than 150.
right,
So it'd be a wash for us unless there's over, let's say there's 4 lots, then we'd be making a little bit of money on.
We're not gonna make any money, right?
These fees are what.
Harris is gonna pay this. Harris is gonna pay this $150, right?
yes.
Well, if there's over 3 lots, we would be getting more income in than what we would be having to pay this person for reviewing it, so.
Right.
So at the very least, it isn't gonna cost us any money, to bring this person on.
How many lots are proposed for this subdivision?
Follow up.
It was, I think for this one, wasn't it just the one they were
For
reading?
this, yeah, for this one, I think it's one. Yeah, I'm sure it's just one.
Do you think we could treat them like a contracted service
I think so.
versus an employee?
Yeah.
That's, I think that's what the agreement,
It's a
I was at
temporary-
that meeting.
Right,
And
it's a temporary.
I think that's how it is, because he's already working as a planning officer, isn't he?
He works down in Fulton County as a supervisor of assessment.
And we would not have to pay mileage or anything for him to come up and do this. Okay.
150, so
Would we be
it's
able to 1099 him then, or we have to W-2?
Well, if he goes over $500, then you would have a 1099. At 500, I believe, is the threshold. If it's under 500, I don't think you have to issue a 1099.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think we're gonna make him a 1099 versus a W-2.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, and you made that motion.
If it's temporary, I will second.
Well,
that.
it's kind of.
temporary part-time.
Well, it's neither, it's a contracted service.
We're appointing a planning officer.
That's gonna be under a
I'll change
contract.
Do you wanna make it for a specific amount of
Yeah.
time, for a year, and then be reviewed after that time, or?
Well, it'd be reviewed as part of the annual budget, wouldn't it?
Well, his contract wouldn't necessarily, would it?
Yeah, we could put a time specific on it. I mean, my guess is, how often are we using this type of
Like
service?
You
one or
may
two
have-
times a year is about it.
You may have 2 a year, I mean,
Yeah.
it just depends.
So it's nominal. I mean, it'd be great if we were so robust in doing so many subdivisions, Mark, that we were, keeping this guy, part-time or full-time. So you made the motion to treat, he would be basically a contracted
Yeah, that's what.
1099, and we're gonna go for a year.
I think that'd be long enough.
Gary seconded.
I second.
Gary, you seconded, okay? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Hospital and animal control.
There's a
Why do we have
letter in-
hospital?
2 letters.
Yeah.
in- I'm sorry, that should have been, because we're still collecting
Yeah.
Uh,
We're still
old
collecting,
bills
yeah.
for the hospital. And if you'll notice, there's quite a bit of money coming in from that.
Quite a sizable amount.
And who's collecting those, the health department?
State Attorney's Office, Sandy Long is collecting.
Oh, the state attorney's office.
Mhm.
So have they collected anything recently? Or do they wait till the end of the year to tell?
No, I just got a
that on here?
big check the other day.
Oh, right here it is, yeah. Mhm.
I would recommend the renewal of this contract, it's one of the things that's gonna get money.
Yeah.
So I make the motion to renew the
Back to Genesis.
with Genesis.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
I didn't hear the motion, what was the motion?
We're going to, we're gonna renew our contract with Genesis for, the collections of old receivables. We're still collecting some of them old bills prior to the sale of the hospital, Donnie. And they pay us, what is it, 18,000 plus fees?
Yep.
That we incur. 2013, the county received 37,000 and 48,000, which is the annual fee plus all filing costs in the circuit court. So I think it's wise that we, now eventually this will probably dry up, I would think, as we get another year or two out there, but it's still bringing in some revenue. So motion's been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
I did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution for the sale of delinquent property.
No, we got animal control deal now. Yeah,
What's that?
we got animal control, same type of situation.
Oh, okay. Is that in the packet? Am I just not seeing it? Okay, okay. All right. Let's, we have the same situation going on here. Mr. Pugh is recommending that we continue this. I need a motion for that.
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, motion approved. Now, resolution for sale of delinquent property. Do we have that, Phyllis, in there? I don't see it.
Yeah, it's a sheet with just one name on it. We only have one property this month to bring before you.
The Brian Wilson Crane.
Yep, Brian Wilson.
And I'll send
Oh,
around the
here it is.
resolution list for you to sign.
Okay, we're all in favor of that, then? Obviously, okay. All right, we have some table items, and we're gonna go ahead and jump into those. It's my understanding, that we tabled the discussion, for early retirement last month. And I believe it's on the board agenda this month to move that forward so that we can, formally adopt that if the board should desire at our March meeting. Is that correct, Phyllis?
What was that again?
The early retirement, we tabled, we're going to discuss it tonight.
I did not get anything from IMRF, and I don't know if we had a miscommunication on
Okay.
that.
So it'll be discussed in March then?
I would appreciate the personnel committee meeting, sitting and meeting on it and actually looking at it. I think
Okay.
that's probably a good idea. And I
Okay.
will get that for you, but if you'll set
Did
it.
you start the study on that?
That's what I said, I
Oh.
didn't hear anything back.
All right, so we're going to send it to the personnel committee for review and bring forth a recommendation, hopefully at the March meeting.
Once we get a estimate.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And then what I had told him was for an April 1st date, as
April
the
1st.
year, if that's okay with everybody. So that would then
So April first would be the first date, what would be the last date?
April 1st of the following year.
So keep it open for an entire year.
It's open for an entire year.
Okay. All right, so go from 4/1/15 to 3/31/16. Okay, authorization to engage auditors, per the operation audit. We did have, last Thursday, the project review committee did meet. The project review committee, consisting of Jeff McWhorter and myself and Mark Bieri. We also had Sheriff Staley sit in For part of the session, he had to do some sheriffing after one of the sessions, but it was good having him. We had Bev and Phyllis. We spent the afternoon talking to three firms. Two of the firms came recommended to us by Jeff Clausen. Those were Ellers and the Mercer Group. A third group came recommended through Phyllis. She bumped into this group at a conference she was at, and that group is Bellwether LLC. The committee spent time listening to these groups make their presentations. Lots of questions were asked, and we, after the regular interviews were over, the committee did meet after the regular interviews to discuss the proposals, and we agreed unanimously to recommend Bellwether LLC to engage them for an operations audit. In your handout, there is information about this group. I can tell you that they have extensive experience, and it was clear when we talked to them that they have extensive experience in understanding Illinois and understanding how Illinois works. They've worked for a lot of counties in Illinois. Just last year, they worked with Bieri County, and they were able to help them in improving their revenue by $750,000 in better fee alignment with what fees should be. On page 17 of their proposal is a breakdown of their fees. I did send out an email yesterday. I did appreciate Phyllis forwarding it on to all the board members. Basically, we see three key things this group's going to help us with over the next couple of months. Number one is looking at our fee structure in the areas of county clerk, GIS, sheriff, animal control, health department. In talking to them, it was amazing some of the things we learned of things that we can, bill for, and remember, fees are not taxes. Fees are if you use, county services beyond normal things, there are fees. And it was really eye-opening to me, and I think others on the committee, to hear the expertise that these guys bring immediately to the table. I personally believe conservatively, there's probably 100,000, maybe 200,000 sitting there on the table that we are leaving. I heard 100. That was conservative, but I also heard them say it could be as high as $150,000 or $200,000. Now, I don't want to set the bar so high to be disappointed, but the bottom line is, I think that we're going to see some impact on fees, and there's going to be some things brought before the board here pretty quickly that will start to impact our revenue, and I think that's a good thing. The other thing they're going to do, and this is something that I think is going to have a great impact, is they're going to really take a look at how our levies are appropriated and how our general fund is appropriated, and they're going to work through our very complicated government accounting, and they're going to help us to review, are there things that we could move from general fund to other levied funds without increasing the burden of the taxpayer, but by improving the general fund's performance as a general fund, and then they're going to take a look at, are there ways we can get move on some of these, if you recall in Bev's report here, you know, we have over, you know, about $5 million in restricted funds sitting on our balance sheet. And are there ways that we can access some of those funds? You know, we're gonna learn a little bit, and I think it's gonna be an educational experience. You know, that could be very eye-opening, you know, maybe we find a pebble or two. I mean, you know, Jeff and I, the last couple of years, we just kind of winged it and asked a bunch of questions, and then we get legal counsel's advice if we could do things, if we could do this and then do that, and we were finding we could do some things, and we had more. So there might be more flexibility there, and I think that this group is gonna help us to understand that. Joe?
I have a question. I looked at all the proposals, sent me copies of, and I see price-wise, this is quite in the ballpark with Mercer Group.
Yeah.
But the scope of work is quite a bit different. These seem to be looking strictly at the fee structures.
Well, there's a third piece that I was gonna get to, Joe. Let me get to that,
Okay,
okay?
the multi-county budget
Yeah,
part?
yeah, there's a third piece that they're gonna do, and as they go through all this revenue analysis, they're also gonna be looking at outliers of expenses and outliers of things that don't look normal to them. Now, remember, they see a bunch of counties, so they're gonna immediately be able to start to see things that look out of line. And when these things are out of line, they're going to then do this multi-county benchmark where they're going to look at other counties. And then they're going to tell us that there's areas that we might be understaffed in or might be overstaffed in.
Okay, that's what we were expecting from.
Right.
That's the county.
So these three things, and to me, Mark and Jeff, Phyllis, and Sherrard, of course, you weren't at this one. But those of you who were here, I just don't want the finance committee just to hear from me, but am I repeating things that we talked about and things that you heard?
I'm not challenging the committee's decision, I'm just trying to, understand all the factors.
Well, I think it's a fair question. I think the three key things I've outlined, though, are the three key things that I believe are gonna be takeaways from this engagement.
They brought something to the table right off the bat that could improve our county's fiscal strength in that. I mean, the rest of them just told us what they were gonna do, but they didn't tell us how to improve it. They said, well, we can do these studies, but they didn't highlight fees, how they're gonna help us with fee schedules.
Ted, I get, my question here, that, on page 8 and 9, you know, some of the recorder results and examples of, on the page 11, zoning results, and this is kind of a generic thing comparing other counties, not specifically to Mercer County, is that right?
Right.
Okay, because I guess my concern is, if they come in here and, like, say that we need to raise the fee for building permits, septic systems, things like that, in a county that's dying, population-wise, are we gonna scare more people away by saying, it's a great place to do, we have high property taxes, now we're gonna, you know, ask you to pay another $200 for that house that you're gonna be building on that gravel road. So I guess if they come in here and say, we gotta be up to par with other counties, is that gonna hurt us in the long run?
Well, you know, Brian, I think that the key is that we're gonna be able to make decisions on their recommendations. We don't have to say there's
Right.
20 recommendations and we're gonna approve them all. I think we're gonna take a look at a menu of things that they're gonna suggest that we could do. Let me give you an example of a fee. You know, when somebody doesn't do their homework and they're a landlord and they wanna evict somebody, we call the sheriff and says, hey, I gotta evict this guy. And we send somebody out, and they stand there for a half hour or an hour, and we don't,
Or 4 hours, or all day.
and we don't bill for that.
Right.
Now, is that fair?
No, that wouldn't be.
So that, you know, that's like a regressive type situation, that we're being punished, that, and these landlords know that, you know, so if we start, if we charge a fee, it's gonna require the landlord to do two things. One, he's either gonna do a better job on the front end screening applicants, or two, he's just gonna build it in the cost of his rent to know that he's gonna have to pay a fee when he has to go and evict someone. that was one very simple that I could get my arms around example. And he talked about animal control, and he talked about another host of types of fees that, I mean, there's things that we could be, billing, doing fees for infrastructure and computers and technology, that certain amount of percent of the fees could actually go towards some infrastructure costs of things that we're trying to improve that we're just leaving on the table right now. So I think that we take a look, I mean, I don't disagree with the concept that if you're so fee high,
Right.
it could be a disincentive for business, okay? But if your fees are so ridiculously low that they're not even, in what a reasonable man would say should be fairly priced at, then I don't think that's right either. I think as county board members, we have to sort through these recommendations, and we have a fiduciary responsibility, because if we can find $100,000 and not be punitive in finding that, but finding it in intelligent ways, I think we need to look at that. I think this group can help us look at that.
Was you gonna add something, Phyllis? I like you were trying to add there earlier to what you heard.
Well, just one example is when somebody comes in to pay delinquent taxes, we do all of the work, the county clerk's office does all the work, putting it in, maintaining the system, working with the tax buyers. We get $3 when they pay that bill off, and there could be 20 hours worth of work. And that's the kind of thing that they will look at, is how much time are you spending doing this and what's that worth? And I believe that the amount of money you're paying those employees to do that 20 hours worth of work is worth more than $3.
And these are the things that we're gonna get this whole menu of things, how we can improve. And then we as a board have to decide, if we think there's a particular fee that could be counterproductive or could hurt our overall goal of trying to breathe stimulus and life in the county, and that's one we pull out and say, no, we don't like this one, because we think it could be counterproductive. But if there's a lot of fees out there and a lot of things that we can do to bring our fees more in reason. Now, the one thing we did learn is that you just can't go get a study and then just go raise your fees. In Illinois, that's prohibited.
Right.
But you can certainly apply prudent demand and look at how you're doing things and get to a point where you can adjust your fees to be a more appropriate line with costs too. Joe?
I would like to make a motion at this time that we recommend to the full board that we engage Bellwether LLC to perform a comprehensive fee review, cost allocation review, and benchmark review.
Okay. Been made, is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, any further comment? I would like to just note that we did, as part of that post-interview meeting, we did comb through the budget, and we believe, correct Phyllis, that there's enough in the liability fund in what we budgeted or appropriated for these types of things to cover this fee.
Audit services, I believe there's enough.
Okay? So we believe there's enough in the liability fund to pay for this at this time. So, is there any other comment?
I guess I'll just say as Jeff did, I mean, between the three of them, the other two groups basically are looking at, say, more driven towards cost cutting. And they came right out of the gate trying to put money right on the bottom line. I mean, on things that are happening day in and day out. You can't get somebody evicted in a half hour. There's no way. It could be on the other side of the county. I mean, and once again, that's, yes, a service, but that service has to be paid for. I think that's what Phyllis is saying, delinquent taxes, yeah, it's a service to take care of that, but in the end, those hours and hours and hours, they have to be worth more than $3. I think we heard the same thing out of zoning. I mean, we're talking about some of this, $50 that you were talking about. We're so far behind the times on a few of these. Unfortunately, I mean, there's gonna be a few people that aren't gonna like it, but as they said, that they've seen kind of certain people utilizing the county to their advantage. They basically know how to work the system, and they know where it's cheaper to be delinquent and pay $3 basically for information that you should have done to begin with. Is that what you, but they came right out of the gate looking to put money on the bottom, to the bottom line. I don't feel hold up, that was not the talk at all. I don't feel that was the talk at all. It was more on, you know, this is right, and this is fair in today's market. So I guess before the vote, that's, Jeff,
Yep, I agree totally.
we all.
I was really impressed with this outfit. And the first two, they were really interesting, and they had the right attitude about doing the studies, but they didn't say anything about helping us create any more revenue. There's gonna be a lot of money spent on studies, we'll probably be stuck back in the filing cabinet with the other 4 or 5.
We've got enough of those.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get the filing cabinet out someday, that floor's gonna fall in back here.
I'm talking about $35,000, right?
That could be up to that. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have about,
Pick and choose.
you're gonna have 34,000 in, 34 or 5 in fees, and they're estimating travel of 750.
If they do all of those areas, now, some of them may not be, if they do all of those areas, they do not need.
We're probably gonna hit on most of them, though, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I believe that's slightly below what the Mercer group was bidding at 36.
What's the timeline?
Couple of months, I think the
I
revenue.
talked to him there the other day, he called just to see how it was going, I said, well, it looks like they're going to
Yeah.
employ you, and so he's already started, and I think he'll be here within a week or two.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday, because I wanted to clarify something. And I told him I thought that we were gonna lean that way, and he started to, you know, kind of just say he was already on, leaning pretty hard into this to hit the ground running, so, you know, you know, even if we spend 35 to make 100 for the next 20 years, 100 grand, it's $2 million of an investment of 35,000. Because once you get that fee base to the basis of where you want to be, it stays there. So you're looking at minimum, and I heard 100,000, and dog, I don't hold their feet to that. Now, we can pick and choose and say we don't like this, but I heard conservatively, they thought, and already their analysis, it could be 100 grand. And so you just take that out 20 years and ask, what was that 35,000 worth in overall investment to the county?
And then some of the reading that I did on them, they also then the opportunity to look at, start doing it year over year, so you don't get so far behind
Again.
like we are. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, you can't wait this 2, 4, 5, 10-year, 20-year. We need to be doing these.
Well, the other
year-over-year
thing we didn't talk about is that this really also helps with the blueprint for our new county administrator, if we approve that. As we go down that line, county administrator is gonna have a number of things from this report that could equally be helpful to them as they start to begin their work midsummer, if we approve that tonight. So, it's been moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The last thing I believe that, other than claims and non-action items, resolution regarding Mercer County line of credit. I did work on this with Deb Lauer and Phyllis. This is to try to minimize borrowing on the line. I'll just read it to you. Whereas the Mercer County Board established on January 1st, 2013, a line of credit to deal with shortfalls in the operating funds for Mercer County. And whereas the Mercer County Board has determined that continued borrowing on the line of credit established with the Bank of Orion to fund ongoing capital purposes for the county shall cease with the approval of this resolution. Therefore, continued borrowing on the line of credit established with the Bank of Orion to fund ongoing capital purposes, and that should be, I'd like to see the word operational inserted in there too, Phyllis, for the county shall cease with the approval of this resolution unless the county treasurer determines that an emergency need exists, at which time the treasurer will be allowed to fund this need with authorization and approval from the county board chairman prior to submission to the bank for the draw on the line of credit. the event, the county board chairman is unavailable, the finance committee chairman will serve in that capacity.
Where was operational from?
After where it says capital, put capital/operation. I make that motion.
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion?
This really isn't much different than what we've been doing though, is it?
As far as how we borrowed on the line,
Right.
Bev would do nothing until
It's in writing.
you would
Right.
sign off on it. This just gives us a policy.
It's just the written policy of what we've been doing in the past.
It takes what we were doing and it brings more, hopefully attention. And look, we're all focused on that line. Bev's working her tail off to try to not borrow on that line.
I just don't want to get caught, of course, this shouldn't box us in the corner where we default on payments to somebody, where we have penalties.
No, because you can have an emergency meeting anytime.
Well,
we have that.
we would rather it be, Brian, where you and her
Oh,
have
just-
that conversation. As county board chairman, we're saying to you what we basically said to Jeff, he had the unwritten.
Right.
We're saying to you, we're putting this policy in writing. At the end of the day, the county board spends the money. I think there just should be that opportunity where you can have that conversation with the treasurer like Jeff did, where you can say, okay, let's talk about this, and you may want to get me and maybe another county board member on the phone, and we can ask questions. Maybe we need to check with the sheriff and see if we can shake loose some money from the marshals in a week, kind of have that conversation. So it's just basically formalizing what we've been doing in hopes that we can stay out of the line. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
I guess.
Joe did. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We have claims.
This item here on the circuit clerk's automation, why is that, what does that involve?
Is that DevNet or what's it say on there?
11,000,
Oh, okay.
56.
Oh, that's for Goodens? Is it Goodens? Is the claim for Goodens?
No, I was just looking at this copy here.
He had to upgrade his software. And so the majority of that, he was maybe $10,000 for Goodens.
Well, it seems like that automation, that's,
Yeah, that's what
it's always got a pretty good sized figure in there. Am I wrong on that?
He pays a lot of it. That's a fee fund, comes out of everybody who pays a fine up in the court.
Okay.
They pay into that for maintenance of the equipment that he has to have.
Okay.
Next month we'll be able to see which account this came out.
We're hoping, yep.
So we have claims of $204,354.73.
Down about $150,000 from last month.
Yes, Joe?
I will say at this time, I actually came to Phyllis yesterday and looked at every single claim that I had a question on and saw all the receipts, and I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I second it. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Other business non-action items? Public comment?
I have one thing, Ken.
Yes.
Totally unfamiliar with the operational audit as far as how the health department is included in it. This is the first I've heard of this. I most assuredly welcome anything that helps us bring our fees into alignment or whatever, but is there a plan to include the health department in this? Because we do have statutes, we do have a board of health, and I kind of would like to have a heads up as to know what to expect in the next few months, I guess.
They're gonna work with every department, as I understand it. and the health department is a department that they're gonna work with. And I think that they understand the statutes,
Sure, and I'm sure they do, if they've done this in other counties.
and, Joe, you had a question?
Yes, I'm aware you've already raised some fees.
Mhm.
My understanding, basically, all their, all the health department do is have to give them what their fee structure is, and they will compare it to other rates of what the state statute is, so it's not gonna be an extremely intrusive thing.
Okay. I was
Is
just
it-
curious.
was that
Well,
what you
yeah,
were
because it
thinking?
was like, this is the first I've heard of
No.
it, and the sheriff was at the
This
table,
is
well,
not-
why won't we?
This is not going over all your checking accounts and that sort of thing.
And that's fine, you and I both
I
know that
understand.
we discussed that, and that's fine, I just wanna make sure that I'm aware of what's
Am I
going on.
correct in that?
So,
Yeah, I don't think anyone's
I
gonna
don't-
try
I
to
don't think
run
it's-
roughshod over any
You know,
department.
looking at this is not going to be an intrusive thing at all, they're going to be looking at what we charge. And, that's public information.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that, I just, it's
I
like, I felt a little
I didn't
blindsided,
think
I'll
you
be
would.
honest, so, okay.
Well, we apologize.
No,
if
that's,
it,
I just
wasn't-
wanted to clear that up so that I make sure I can report back to my Board of Health as well, so.
Good question. Any other public comment? Did you have- Okay. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
I have
Got a lot done.
claims for you to sign, guys.